If you say Happy Indigenous Peoples Day, you're undermining what Thanksgiving means. And as someone who is only part white, Thanksgiving isn't racist. Let me explain to the ignorant virtue signalers why. And if you want to educate the ignorant people in your life, feel free to share. The Pilgrims were English separatists. They resided in Holland. In 1620, they took a trek to escape religious persecution. And the primary reason to leave Holland was to keep their children from being morally corrupted by the Dutch culture at the time. Sound familiar? See, the Pilgrims wanted to establish a morally pure and virtuous culture in accordance with their beliefs. But, due to bad weather, the Pilgrims didn't make it to the English settlement they desired. They landed in Plymouth, Massachusetts in December of 1620. This was the sole reason for the Plymouth colony, one of the earliest English settlements in all of North America. All right, listen to this. Around 90 hungry Wampanoag Indian warriors broke bread with around 50 surviving pilgrims. This is a key element in people considering that Thanksgiving is a racist holiday. How? Like, seriously, how? Peaceful, surviving, depleted pilgrims from a deathly winter were vastly outnumbered by Wampanoag warriors. The pilgrims provided vegetables and fish, while the natives provided 5 recently hunted deer as a welcoming gift. Oh, make the racism stop! So how did this come about? SQUANTO, a man left with no family and friends, who was part of the Patuxet and adopted into the Wampanoag tribe. Now, SQUANTO, he had experienced racism, but it was not by the peaceful pilgrims. He had all the more reason to be skeptical of English explorers. In 1614, he was kidnapped by an English explorer by the name of Thomas Hunt. Because guess what? In the 1600s, good and bad people also existed exactly like today. That's weird. SQUANTO was then sold into slavery in Spain, where he was persecuted. He fortunately escaped with the help of peaceful religious monks and then got to return to his home in Plymouth. But his friends and family, they were no longer there due to brutal winters and disease. See, SQUANTO understood the religious peaceful nature of the pilgrims due to the religious peaceful nature of the monks that helped set him free. He also understood the brutal winters and disease that took his family, and most recently the pilgrims' family. You see, SQUANTO acted as a liaison, a peacemaker between the Wampanoag tribe and the pilgrim settlers, helping them translate, also due to his time in English captivity. And the pilgrims, they considered SQUANTO a special instrument sent by God for their good beyond expectation. It sounds like racism, right? And considering the path SQUANTO had been placed, kidnapped, persecuted, enslaved in Spain, helped and freed by religious monks, lost his family and friends, adopted into another tribe. You see, SQUANTO, an indigenous person, could decipher what was good and evil back then. But you, in retrospect, 400 years later, want to decide it now? And not to mention, if SQUANTO wouldn't have been kidnapped, he would have had the same deathly fate as his family and friends, and there would not have been a Thanksgiving. So yeah, most definitely a godsend that you just want to trample on. And after this celebration of what we consider Thanksgiving, there was 65 years of peace. That does not sound like racism to me. Considering the term Indian giver comes from a separate generation of natives that came back and tried to take a separate generation of settlers' land. You do realize that after 65 years of peace, the same people who started fighting were not the same people who broke bread in peace, right? If not, you are a moron. And before Thanksgiving became a national holiday, it was celebrated as a 3-day harvest festival in October that was inspired by a biblical holiday, Sukkot, the Feast of Tabernacles. But on October 3rd, 1863, during the Civil War, President Abraham Lincoln issued a proclamation establishing Thanksgiving as a national holiday. So the same guy that freed the slaves is the same guy that established Thanksgiving to celebrate acceptance and unity. And the same people who established Indigenous Peoples Day are the same people that established Jim Crow laws and the KKK. I'd have to side with my logic and actual history that Thanksgiving is not racist. And anyone who thinks so is a brainwashed moron who has no ability to self-educate. However, I do think it is important to learn about my people's history. The indigenous. How the Comanche Indians raped and murdered the Apache Indians, took their land, and forced the migration of a people. But in honor of Thanksgiving, even you radical tribalists that constantly spew division and self-identity, you are welcome to have a seat at my table. Just don't call me a racist. Now pass the turkey. Happy Thanksgiving.